Why did that teacher get fired from your school? 2 teachers, they got caught freaking in a classroom. My 5th grade teacher got caught freaking the dude in her classroom while we were out for recess. Neither got fired, but were transferred to other schools. Now I'm really starting to wonder if any of my other teachers were freaking each other and nobody ever found out. Students laughed she ate toothpaste. Turns out she was an alcoholic trying to cover her breath. 9 out of 10 alcoholics recommend Crest TM. The 10th one passed out and couldn't recommend it. Dating a 16-year-old female student. He was also a pet teacher. It's always the pet teachers. It was the tech teachers for us. My math teacher was a volunteer first responder in New York. She left school to help out during 9/11 and was fired for not showing back up for 2 weeks. Freaking hell. The students and parents fought for her, but I think she decided not to come back because of the outright fricked upness. One of my high school teachers was caught on to catch a predator. I bet it was Walter Babst, the high school teacher from Riverside, California. Bingo. You guessed it. I haven't watched the video in years. She had fallen off the wagon and was drinking a lot to the point where it was growly affecting her memory. We kept doing the same lecture on density in 6th grade science for a month until one of my classmates decided to ask another teacher about it. From there she went to rehab. If anyone wants more context, she was our homeroom and science teacher. She was very nice and married to our assistant principal, so she had a little bit more leeway. While she was able to remain sober for a while, she eventually passed away due to the effects of her addiction a few years after this. She never seemed like a bad teacher, but she was always stressed to the absolute maximum, always felt like she was working from behind, and generally struggling to keep up. You know, the traditional tail end of the functioning addict lifestyle. Your knowledge on density must be phenomenal. Do not fear the man who has learned 1000 concepts once, but the man who has learned one concept 1000 times. One of the elementary school teachers at the district I went to got arrested for making his class worship him like he was a cult leader. He was totally bonkers. What the frick? I don't know whether to laugh or be shocked. This is the weirdest one yet. Yeah, we all knew he was really odd, but I never expected him to start making the class call him master and making them say that he was a higher power. He didn't come to parent-teacher interview night. The next day, he was late for class and crashed his pickup into a brick sign outside the school. Cops showed up obviously and allegedly he blew twice the legal limit. He called the principal an idiot as he was taken away. Just while he was at it, might as well vent some grudges. If he didn't say it, he would have faced the same consequences, so why not? Our new band teacher was a young guy, fresh out of college. His first year teaching, and he embezzled about $1,000 from the band's funds. He got arrested, and his possible future career ruined for $1,000. I had a teacher with a gambling addiction claim thousands of dollars collected under his care was lost. School never reported it in, and protected him, because he was close to retirement. Our beloved teacher, Mr. Morn, had worked there for 29 years without incident, and was one of the best teachers there. His classroom was always a laugh riot. He was the best roaster, and encourages us to roast improperly. He never failed to get us motivated, and a lot of us owe our career inspiration from him. He was fired because he had jokingly smacked a student on the back of his head for making a stupid comment. It was like something out of a sitcom and all of us expected it and loved it. Yet one student, who was new at the school, was culture shocked by this. He thought it was strange but hilarious. He told his mom offhandedly, and his mom became the Karen. Never mind that the student was the teacher's godson. No physical contact was allowed, says the Karen. He was suspended with pay for 3 months pending investigation, then was let go because the Karen twisted the story and it blew up around the school. A year later, teacher won both the lawsuit against the school and libel case against the Karen, with her son being one of the key witnesses. We still keep in contact and roast him for getting rich over smacking kids around. Holy crap, imagine your son testifying against you for a libel case. She's always been kind of a bitch, Your Honor. Explained elasticity by pulling the brass strap of a girl. Another one for having relationship with a girl from 8th grade. 14 yo. Hey sissy, come here so I can explain the female reproduction to the class. Sir, but you haven't explained the male one yet. Geekier/V teacher that everyone loved. Knew he was a geek and owned it. Caught in a predator sting trying to solicit underage girls. The kicker was a spring school levy was coming up. Local police conspired with the school district to hide the charges for 3 weeks until the levy was passed. Someone substituted his class for 3 weeks. Yay, everyone was both devastated and mad. The district ended the school year early. Does levy have a meaning besides drafting your serfs into a standing army? Yay, it means to impose a tax or fine. In this instance it would be a new tax proposal was coming up that would benefit the school. My high school of 500 students lost 5 teachers last year because they all had a relationship with the same 15y/a girl. Is this real? Sadly, the story is that this girl started flirting with all her male teachers to get attention and good grades, and they all flirted back and sent her nudes and stuff. Then at the end of the year, when she realized how fricked up it was, she exposed them to the whole school. He was a wonderful, friendly and handsome teacher. This girl had a crush. Some bitch told the teacher about this girl's crush. The teacher felt awkward and avoided her eyes from then on. Girl got hurt. Complained to the principal that he was being creepy with her. All the heads, which included my father, were called for a meeting with him. He got sick of defending himself. Shouted, "Frick you," and left the school. They fired him before he could hand out his resignation. It was one of the best schools and all the rich kids studied there. I studied because my father was a faculty, otherwise we don't have so much money, and hence teachers were dealt with very harshly. On one occasion, a teacher was fired only because it seemed on the cameras that he hit a boy hard. The parents complained, and he was fired the next day without listening to him at all. My father knew that he just patted him, but the kid was spoiled and he lied. Also, the teacher was a junior one. Nothing happened to the girls. Our Reich might have talked to them about it, but IDK about that. They graduated fine. No problem. I got to know about this incident later. When I was there, I just knew that he knows she has a crush on him and that he left one day. I mentioned my father so that you'll know how I know what happened in the meeting. He just knew that a girl has complained and now they are called. Also, the teacher we are talking about was every student's favorite. So other teachers were jealous and they all assumed he is very lenient and encourages us to not follow other teachers and stuff. So it might have made it hard for him to say he stayed professional always. When it's the kid's fault is the worst. Had a teacher in HS. He taught English and was the JVFB coach. He was a good man and well liked. His wife worked directly below him teaching geography and pregnant. Her family was known in the area for owning an apple orchard. They had their dream. The school officer's daughter started saying she slept with him. He denied, but was promptly fired. He had a mental breakdown. His wife divorced him. Last I know he was working at a TGI Fridays. His wife remarried and had another kid. The girl who lied came forward after and said she lied, but it was too late. He remained fired. Life ruined. She and her father transferred and moved out of town. That girl ruined his life and got no real consequences. Tragic. My sociology teacher in high school was fired for throwing a chalkboard eraser at a sleeping student's head. He was a great teacher and always did this in good humor. Obviously not a great idea in retrospect, but we all knew that we could get away with sleeping in his class if we didn't mind getting an eraser upside the head if he noticed. I heard he was fired a few years after I graduated high school, and that kinda bummed me out. Probably deserving of a reprimand of some sort, but not getting fired. It's not like he was a sex offender or guitar player. Guitar players are all fired on the spot because they like to finger A minor. My app chemical teacher had an affair with the principal. Principal got fired too. I felt bad for her. They didn't do anything on school property and it didn't impact her performance in the classroom. Also, the school wasn't able to find a qualified teacher to replace her halfway through the year, so we were all fricked come test time at the end of the year. Not one of us passed that app test. That's messed up. There are very few teachers in a given school that are capable of teaching app, especially without training. Not to mention, that it was a rural area where there wasn't a surplus of teachers period, much less ones prepared for higher level courses. I don't blame the district for not being able to find an adequate replacement, but I do blame them for firing her in the first place. He was playing his guitar for students at my elementary school. He had been warned before, but the kids enjoyed it, so he continued to play it for them anyways. One day, the assistant principal was lurking in the hallway and wandered to his classroom. She saw him playing his guitar and fired him on the spot. A whole lot of students were crying that day because he was an amazing guy. This took place in a small rural town in Georgia back in the early 2000s. He wasn't the music teacher, he just used to bring his guitar and play songs randomly on some days and the kids enjoyed it. He'd been warned multiple times by his higher ups. Why? IDK. He was a great teacher. He thought that before the break, he could play something for us one last time during the last week of school. It just happened to be the worst possible timing while the assistant principal was walking through the halls. He didn't come back to teach at our school when classes started again. If I recall, he got a job teaching at a different school. I don't see anything wrong with a little bit of music. Enjoyment in learning isn't allowed apparently. She was always wasted and drinking during class. She would leave us to cry in the bathroom. Wow, that's sad. They pretty much invented my high school French class grades to cover her drinking. Then I transferred schools and they were surprised at how little French I knew. I had such good grades. A co-worker teacher got fired 2 weeks in the new semester when instead of uploading a video related to his subject, he instead accidentally continued a previously paused hardcore lesbian scene on the big interactive screen. The computer he was using was slow and crappy too, so he couldn't quickly exit the video. It went on for a good 30 seconds before someone pulled the plug on the screen around the same time he lobbed the laptop about 30 feet across the class. Yikes. This one's so horrible, but also so plausibly completely accidental. I definitely believe it was accidental to show it, but why on earth was he watching 30 while at his job, teaching children? That's the part where this should have been completely avoided. Instead it would have been much less a problem if it was, say, a video on why the Star Wars prequels are the worst or something else SFW. The one that for fired was a substitute teacher and coach of a girls team for grade 7-9. He seemed a bit creepy and we joked that he liked coaching the girls and teaching pet so he could watch the girls run around in their shorts. Turns out that wasn't far from the truth. His full-time job was in the medical field, where he was caught doing inappropriate things to female patients, some of whom being kids he coached and taught, and he had 2 sons in that school. This one didn't get fired, but she was at the point where she had a few classes taken from her, and if she did anything wrong, she would have been gone. Why? Well, she didn't know the subject she was teaching, and would make stuff up, rather than admitting she didn't know the answer. She was always mad, and we called her Popsicle because she acted like she had a stick up her ass. But the biggest thing was that she failed 2 grade 11 classes. The whole class, because apparently not one person, including the smartest people in the school, passed any tests. I had a teacher like the second one. Science teacher who believed the earth was flat. She was also a huge bitch. Wasn't a teacher, but our vice principal. Essentially our principal bumped her twin niece's class ranks up to valedictorian and salutatorian. The vice principal, one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and a truly amazing guy, did what was right and confronted the school board and told them that this was unfair to those who actually earned those ranks. Those twins were some of the most average people I've ever encountered in my life and they didn't work nearly as hard as the other candidates for the spot. It doesn't help that everyone on the school board including the superintendent was related to the principal. Thus, our heroic vice principal was fired, and it was a shock to the whole school. They tried covering it up by saying he didn't have the proper documentation/education to be in his position, though if that was the case I'm not sure why they would hire him and let him stay for the first 2 years of my high school career. Everyone knew it was a sham and the local news actually got involved when I called them during lunch. That next football game, NBC showed up and there was a protest outside of the local library. I printed out almost 100 flyers that read "What are you gonna do? Fire me?" Save Lightfoot. The entire school was mad and the twins' ranks were promptly demoted back to 21st and 22nd in our class though, not until the next school year started. It's insane how corrupt school systems are nowadays. I'm going to guess they've been corrupt for a while. We just now get to find out how widespread it is. And it's harder to cover up. Teachers at my high school got fired on a pretty regular basis. Principal was a narcissist, but here's one of the rare ones we actually heard about. The school went into lockdown because someone was seen hopping over the fence onto campus at the start of the school day. Freshman geography teacher locked his door, didn't control his class, wouldn't let one of the students back in, and jumped at every sound he heard. For comparison, the sub in senior literature next door didn't have a key to lock the door, but grabbed the handle, got on the floor, and planted both his feet on the frame, so that the door couldn't be opened. I think the dude was a linebacker for football too. Hodder. And I got a story for this one. I apologize for the length, but it's worth a read. So I got a job as a pet teacher / coach at a K-12 school. It was the beginning of my second year and rumors were going around about a teacher having a relationship with a student. I just thought it was a rumor and moved on. A few days later we have a cross-country meet, and I have to get to the school at 5:30 AM to leave for the meet. I noticed another car in the parking lot, which was gated closed, and no one around. This has never happened, so I called one of the other coaches, and he was not sure, and found it strange. I don't think much of it, and go about my day. We get back from the meet around noon and the car is still there. Turns out it is one of the high school teacher's car that was left from the day before. I thought it was car troubles, and decided to not think much of it. I arrived back to school on Monday and boy howdy did crap hit fan. The car was left at over the weekend, not because of car troubles but much worse reasons. The car was left over the entire 48-hour weekend because the teacher who owned the car had a mental breakdown in class, couldn't control it, and had his sister, who also worked at the school, take him home. He had a breakdown because his GF broke up with him. His GF was his student. So once the story was confirmed, the police came and searched his classroom. His classroom had empty liquor bottles in the desk and his room was a mess. The teacher was fired, and that was the last I heard of him. However, the story doesn't end there folks, because the sister of the convicted teacher was behind everything. Helped them arrange dates, meetups, and covered for him to keep the story hidden. She was fired a week later. I left the education world after that semester and never looked back.